Thank you. Next up, we have Gerald Barron, the Executive Director of Save Family Farming.
This on? Working? Okay. Well, it's great to be here, and especially with my neighbors. I live about 2 miles from Harley and about 2 miles from Sakuma, so on Farm to Market Road right there in Skagit County. We're going to talk about labor. Anybody here interested in labor? Let me see how many of you are farmers or directly involved in farm operations. Okay, those of you who are involved in farm operations or farmers, how many of you would include labor as one of your top 3 concerns? Raise your hand. Okay, I think I'm talking to the right group here. We're going to talk a little bit about Safe Family Farming, Whatcom Family Farmers, Yakima, Skagit Family Farmers, and what we're doing about the labor issues. I'll fill you in just a little bit more about. I guess. Okay, great. Thank you. Whatcom Family Farmers has been around about 2.5, 2 3/4 years. How many of you have heard of Whatcom Family Farmers? Okay, those of you of Whatcom County, I hope so. Safe Family Farming emerged out of Whatcom Family Farmers in really late 2015, early 2016, when the What's Upstream campaign happened. And how many of you have heard of the What's Upstream campaign? Good. Okay, so one of the issues that Safe Family Farming is going to be taking on, and is already taking on, is the labor issue. And see if I can move it to the next. Do I have to point it at this? Oh, maybe I have to hit the right button. There we go. We have a worker shortage, a growing worker shortage. That's been well documented. We have very high labor costs. We have foreign competition. I know that working with the raspberry growers and the blueberry growers in Whatcom County are very aware and concerned of the growing threat from a foreign competition. Mexican berries, for example, have increased 500% in the last 10 years. So more and more of our berries sold in our stores are coming from foreign growers. And now we have this. And when I say this, probably easiest to refer to Rosalinda Guillen. And how many of you have heard of Rosalinda Guillen? Okay. Rosalinda Guillen is the Executive Director of Community to Community, which is a worker center located in Bellingham. And if you don't know what a worker center is, it's worth looking up, because worker centers are a well-established tool that labor unions use to skirt labor union organizing laws. And community to community definitely qualifies as this. I suspect that many of you are aware of the media coverage involving the Sumas farm called Sarbanand and the worker protests this this summer and involving the death of one of their workers. Excuse me. A lot of media coverage, particularly from Seattle, and none of it positive to farmers. So I'm assuming, let me just ask you this. How many of you are currently hiring guest workers, H-2A guest workers? Raise your hand if you are. How many of you would if the program was less expensive, easier, more unbureaucratic? At least a few of you would. And this issue of labor and the guest workers doesn't just affect those of you who are using guest workers or who may use it, because I know berry farmers, for example, in Whatcom County are very, very concerned. Even though they're not using guest workers, and I suspect more of them would be using guest workers if they weren't concerned about the repercussions that may face them if they did. But what Rosalinda Guillen and her people are doing, including the Columbia Legal Center, also applies to those of you who may not be hiring guest workers. So this issue is not just for farmers, even though about 18,000 guest workers were hired in Washington State this year, and only about 700 of those were in Western Washington, I think all in Whatcom County. So our problem is this. We have these problems already, and now we have Ms. Guillen and her those who work with her, including Columbia Legal Center, putting more and more pressure on farmers. And the tactics that she uses are primarily to attack farmers and accuse them of all kinds of horrible things, most of which are not true, at least I hope they're not. And in the process, really doing some severe damage to our farmers and their reputation. So why worry about this? And I can tell you that one big reason why I worry about this is the picture of that gentleman right there. All of you know who that is? If you don't know, you should, because he will most likely be our next governor. That's Attorney General Bob Ferguson, who is, it's well known in the state, is working on becoming our next governor. Mr. Ferguson is a real concern, partly because of his actions already. For example, in about, Rick, do you remember how long ago it was that Bob Ferguson had that conference or that workshop in Yakima on farm worker justice? About 2 months ago, something like that. And I also understand that not long ago, sometime after that, he was seen at a meeting in Seattle wearing a United Farm Workers t-shirt. Am I promoting him? I'm saying I'm worried. Just to be clear, I know I'm not promoting him. I'm saying that why this is a major concern, because if we have an unfriendly legal system in an attorney general, then an unfriendly government within the Democratic leadership that will most likely retain leadership in the state for a long time, we're not going to get the support on the labor issues that we need, which leads to what we need to do about this. And what we need to do about it from our standpoint is understand, first of all, that the power in this state resides in these people. The people in our cities, Seattle, Bellingham, Spokane, Yakima, Olympia, the people on our cities, especially the young people, are where the political power in the state resides. So ultimately, it's what they think about these issues that matters the most. And that's why we are doing what we do. That's why we do with Welcome Family Farmers and Skagit Family Farmers, Yakima Family Farmers, what we do. And it's why we do what we're doing with Save Family Farming on this labor issue. Our message is not to you. We don't need to convince you that farmers are doing the right thing as it relates to labors, and the union activists are causing the problems for our workers. We don't have to convince you of that. I suspect you're already convinced. Well, who we have to convince are those people who are very far away from our farms, who don't understand what farming today is all about, who are very concerned about, well, the environment for one thing, but they're also very concerned about farm worker justice. We want to talk to the people who have concerns about the justice for farm workers, because if we do not convince those people that we're the ones taking care of farmers, and the activists who are saying they're working for farmers are the ones who are actually doing them harm, then we cannot possibly win that battle. We can't win Mr. Ferguson over. We can't win the Democratic leadership over. We can't get the support in the courts, and certainly not in the halls in Olympia. So that's why what we're going to be doing with Safe Family Farming is targeting these people. And I want you to understand that, because sometimes in talking to farmers about our messaging and our strategies, they say, hey, why are we doing this? This is why we're doing it. Because if these are the people that we need to show what the facts really are. So what must be done? This is what we believe must be done. We need to gain the support of those who are concerned about justice, particularly those people in our cities, our younger people, the ones who are actively involved in farm worker. I'll tell you what really came home to me is during this summer when Sarbanan was being attacked, and when Rosalinda Guillen and her group were sending out all these emails in Bellingham, and I saw some dear friends of ours, people who are smart and very caring people, getting on Facebook and saying, everyone, please help those poor farm workers in Sumas because they're being so abused by the farmer. These are people that I knew, my friends, and they're being convinced by this. So we need to gain the support of those people, but particularly, again, those people in our cities who are far away from the farms and who are concerned about justice. We need to show them that the victims of this effort are the workers. Yes, they're attacking farmers. I'm sorry, I wish we could make more progress in just defending farmers and saying what a good job farmers are doing. But if the person in the city is concerned about farm worker justice, they're going to be far more amenable to an effort that is aimed at defending farm workers than they are in an effort that's defending farmers. Would you agree with that? So we have to talk about what is right and good for farm workers. The good thing is we have the truth and the facts on our side. That is why they have resorted to all the dishonesty, all the lies, all the distortions of what's really going on, because they don't have the truth and the facts on their side. We have to show the value of these jobs to workers. Do you know if a worker from Mexico becomes part of the H-2A guest worker program, you know about how much money they make, right? You all have a pretty good idea of adverse wage rates and all of that and how it applies to domestic workers and all of that. I calculated if they earn minimum wage in Mexico, they would have to work over 6.5 years full-time in Mexico to what they can make in 3 to 4 months here. That's the difference. There's at least a 20 times difference in what they get. We are in the process of documenting a lot of what these workers have to say, putting them on video and having them explain to the people that we need to be talking to just what these guest worker jobs mean to them. We need to show that these people value their jobs. The only thing that the media has seen so far are those handful of protesters who are standing and saying, I don't like the food that they got at Sarbanand, or whatever their complaints were. What we need to show the media and the public is that these jobs are very, very valuable to these people who are coming. About 200,000 people from Mexico are now coming to the US as guest workers. So that's an important part of what we need to do. We need to show how consumers are harmed. When the Costco stores, when they're Safeway stores, when they're bringing in all of these imported fruit, the consumers are not understanding that that fruit is harvested at, in the case of Serbia, what I understand is about $5 a day. In the case of Mexico, it's about $11 a day of the wage that they get. Where if it's harvested here, the workers are getting paid well. Comparatively, they're getting paid very well. And not only that, I just saw some information from the FDA that says imported fruit is 8 times more likely to have residues of pesticide. So we have food safety issues, we certainly have fair trade, fair labor issues, and we need to inform the consumers when they choose to buy berries from Mexico or from Serbia or other countries, what it means, what their consumer decision really means. And in doing so, we will help communicate what, how these workers who are coming here to harvest our crops are really, how they're really being treated. There's one other thing that needs to be mentioned here that is not on this list, and I intend to add it because it came out of our task force conference call yesterday. We also need to communicate the message that farmers are doing a great job in taking care of their workers. Now, I know what some of you are saying, yeah, but that's not universally true. It isn't universally true, and it needs to be. And that's one of the messages we need to get. Every farmer has a responsibility because of the cost, because of what's going on in the industry, to make certain that they're doing everything they possibly can to take care of their workers. You know, and it makes sense. You're having to recruit them. You're having to retain them. I've seen so many efforts going on to say, hey, we'll take care of it. Fortunately, I've been getting good support from some of the farmers and getting photos of fiestas, of baseball tournaments, of all these things that farmers are doing to support their workers, in addition to the pay, the housing, and all the things that they're doing to take care of them. We have to tell that story, because the only story that the people in Seattle have heard is how terrible these workers are being treated, that the housing is a shambles. It's, you know, that compared to housing in Haiti after the earthquake. That's what they were saying. And that's what the Seattle people understand, because that's the only message that they've been getting from the media. And that goes to the next point. Oh, by the way, I should mention, I have a real problem when being able to tell the positive stories. I have been trying for about 6 months now to talk to farmers to say, hey, help me tell the positive stories. And I will tell you, and I understand this, but I also want you to explain the problem I'm facing. There isn't a farmer, and probably including everyone here, who is willing to put their face out there, to even put their name out there and say, this is what we're doing to take care of workers. For the very good reason that if they do, they may very well be targeted by Rosalinda and company. I understand that, but I will tell you my answer to that. And it's the answer of Ben Franklin in the Revolutionary War. He said, we must surely hang together, or we will most certainly hang separately. And I believe that to be the truth. The more we as a group come together and say, no, we're going to stand together, then we have the power to do that. And Rosalind, I'm sorry, cannot take on this whole industry. So if the industry, the farmers stand together, we can overcome that problem. But if we can't get any cooperation in telling positive stories, we're going to take away a very important tool that we have. So that's my little pitch. We need to show that activists lie and they can't be trusted. I know some people are uncomfortable with that word lie, but I just saw yesterday one of the news stories about this, and it said protesters protest against corporate murder. That's what the headline was. That's what they accused the Sumas farm of, corporate murder. And that information came directly from community to community. And then we need to make certain that our elected leaders know what's really going on and where their voters stand on the issue of farm worker justice. So what are we doing? We are well on the way of developing a website which is called farmworkerjusticenow.org. It's not called Save Family Farming. It's not called Support Your Farmers. It's called farmworkerjusticenow.org. And the reason we're doing that is because we need to appeal to those people. We're very strong on social media. Dylan Hunkoop behind me over here is our new communications director. Some of you locally may recognize him from KGMI, but he's joined our effort at Safe Family Farming, and he's taking care of all of our social media and a lot of our digital presence. We're doing a lot of videos, and we're going to be doing any of those, and I may be calling on some of you to help with some of that, provide materials that you have, or be willing to participate. We're going to be engaging with the media. The primary media that have been a problem for us are the Seattle Times and King TV. We believe that when they're presented with the facts, that the story is going to change. And that's one of the main things we're going to be doing. We're collaborating with grower groups. We have a number of the grower groups, including Washington Grower League, and we're working with tree fruit people. Eastern Washington, this is the guest worker is even more of an issue than it is here in Western Washington. So we need the support of the industry, these grower groups, as well as major farmers. And we're going to be working with them both to tell positive stories, but also to reach out to our elected officials to make certain they know what's really true. And most of all, we need to have farmer support. If the farmers aren't behind this, we're not going to be able to do the job that's ahead. Here's an example page from our website. And you'll see that we're doing everything in Spanish as well as English. And the headline right now, and this may change, but is who is helping farm workers and who is hurting them? Because our primary message is going to be, if you're concerned about farm worker justice, you need to see that continuing to provide these jobs for farmers, for farm workers, and offer the kind of facilities, the care, the treatment that they're getting is the very best thing, and it's what the farm workers want. And it's the union activists who are trying to take this away. I know my time is, how much time do I have? 1 minute, okay. So who's Safe Family Farming? I mentioned Whatcom Family Farmers got organized about 2.5 years ago. Safe Family Farming emerged out of that. We now have affiliates in Yakima. Bill Dolson, who is the owner of Cow Palace, some of you may know if you're from Eastern Washington, is the head of Yakima Family Farmers, and then in Skagit Family Farmers, we have Jason Vanderkoy, who's a dairy farmer in Skagit County. So we all work together and coordinate the efforts to reach out to the public and to reach out to our elected officials through these means. In terms of this particular outreach, what we're doing, we really see it as growing from our Washington family farmers through our local organizations, through Safe Family Farming. Myself, Dylan Hunkoop, and we also have a gentleman by the name of Juan Baldovinos, who is maybe giving us some support in this. We've established a task force, and that is people from some of the major farms, as well as some of the farm organizations. Rick Anderson with WAFLA is part of that, which I'm very grateful for. And so it's going to be farmer controlled, farmer managed, but we're going to put this outreach program out there in order to change what the story is. We're looking for a budget of about $75,000 to $100,000. We have about $25,000 of that raised. So if you're one of the farmers that is interested in supporting this, let me know. We have a table out there. So you can talk to Dylan or myself, or Fred Lickle, who's the head of Whatcom Family Farmers. He'll be there as well. You can talk to any of us, and if you get a phone call or an email from one of us, please answer. With that, I'm going to stop and see if there's any questions. And I will mention, if any of you are interested in looking at the website as it's being developed right now, we do have on the table right out there. We will have that loaded afterwards, so if you want to have a look at that, that would be great. Any questions or comments before I get kicked off the stage? Yes.
Working out, yep. Actually, I'm a little bit informed on the Sumas farm thing, and that whole thing with the farce being sponsored by paid, what do you call them?
Activists, right.
Activists, and it and the and the surprising thing is that I thought the government was controlling the H2A. Most farmers can't afford it anyway, but the H2A was being, these people are being sent in by contractors, and this person that supposedly had this stroke, but he already knew he had heart problem before he even left Mexico.
Yeah, he had a diabetic problem. Right. No, everything that was reported, everything that was said is not true. But you know, a lie repeated often enough becomes the truth, and there's no one to there's no one saying what isn't true here, and that's why, you know, we're filling a huge gap that that needs to be filled, because you're absolutely right. Almost everything that was said about what happened there wasn't true. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.